In our previous videos, we told you that all blue-eyed people on Earth share a single common ancestor who lived 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. We told you that green eyes trace back to the Caucasus Hunter-Gatherers and spread across Eurasia through the Bronze Age Yamnaya expansion. We told you about the ancient populations behind hazel eyes, gap teeth, and red hair. But we have been saving the most important eye color story for last, because the story of brown eyes is not the story of a mutation, a bottleneck, or a specific ancient population. It is something far more fundamental than any of that. The story of brown eyes is the story of every human being who ever lived. Professor Hans Eiberg of the University of Copenhagen put it in the simplest possible terms. Originally, we all had brown eyes. Every human being who ever lived, for the vast majority of our species' existence on Earth, had brown eyes. Blue eyes are 6,000 to 10,000 years old. Green eyes are somewhat older, but still recent in evolutionary terms. Brown eyes are as old as our species itself. They go back 300,000 years to the first anatomically modern humans. If you have brown eyes, you are not carrying a mutation. You are not the result of a specific ancestral event. You are carrying the original, the baseline, the eye color that every single one of your ancestors had, going back to the very beginning of what it means to be human. And the ancient DNA evidence, particularly a landmark study by the Max Planck Institute, has now given us the most precise picture yet. Brown eyes have more melanin, specifically eumelanin, the dark brown-black pigment, in the iris than any other eye color. This melanin is produced by specialized cells called melanocytes, which sit in the stroma of the iris, the spongy tissue. When melanocytes are highly active, the iris absorbs most incoming light and appears dark brown. When they are less active, less melanin is produced, and the eye color shifts toward hazel, green, or blue. The genetics of brown eyes are controlled primarily by the OCA2 gene on chromosome 15, which regulates melanin production. The ancestral form of this gene produces a fully functional P protein that generates abundant melanin. This is the brown eye configuration. All subsequent eye color variants are the result of mutations that reduce or modify the activity of OCA2, thereby reducing melanin. This is the crucial point. Brown eyes are not the result of a mutation. They are the ancestral state, the original configuration. Brown eyes exist because nothing changed. They are what human eyes look like when the DNA is running the ancestral program. Unchanged since the first members of our species opened their eyes in Africa 300,000 years ago. In December 2024, the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology published a landmark study in the journal Nature that gave us the clearest genetic picture, yet of what the earliest modern humans looked like. The study sequenced high-quality genomes from two of the oldest anatomically modern human individuals ever recovered in Europe. The first individual, known as Ranis 13, came from the Ilsenhöhle cave near Ranis in Thuringia, Germany. His remains were dated to approximately 45,000 years before the present, making him one of the earliest modern humans known to have set foot in Europe. The second individual, known as Zlatý Kun, came from a cave in the Czech Republic and was dated to approximately 43,000 years ago. When the researchers analyzed the genetic variants in these ancient genomes related to physical traits, they found exactly what evolutionary theory predicted, but had never before been confirmed with such ancient DNA. Both Ranis 13 and Zlatý Kun carried variants associated with dark skin, dark hair, and brown eyes. The study explicitly noted that these physical characteristics reflected the recent African origin of this early European population. These were people who had left Africa within the past few thousand years. Their bodies still showed it. Their eyes still showed it. This finding is remarkable for several reasons. It confirms that the depigmentation of European populations did not happen immediately after the out-of-Africa migration. It happened much later, driven by specific selection pressures in specific environments. For the first tens of thousands of years that modern humans lived in Europe, they looked much more like their African ancestors than like modern Europeans. Brown eyes were still universal, and they would remain so for tens of thousands of years more. The Ranis 13 and Zlatý Kun individuals lived 45,000 years ago. Modern humans originated in Africa approximately 300,000 years ago. based on the fossil evidence from Jebel Irhoud in Morocco, where the oldest known anatomically modern human remains were discovered, in sediments dated to approximately 315,000 years before the present. That means that for roughly 255,000 years, from the origin of our species to the period documented by the Rani's genomes, every anatomically modern human on Earth had brown eyes. Not some of them, all of them. Brown eyes were not a common trait, they were the only trait. To put that in perspective, agriculture is approximately 10,000 years old. The pyramids of Giza are approximately 4,500 years old. The blue eye mutation is approximately 6 to 10,000 years old. Modern humans with brown eyes existed for 25 to 30 times longer than those things. The overwhelming majority of human existence, measured by both time and by the number of individuals who have ever lived, was a brown-eyed existence. The diversity of brown eye shades we see today, from the deepest almost black brown of West African and South Asian populations to the lighter amber brown of some Mediterranean groups, reflects tens of thousands of years of subtle genetic variation within the brown eye range. Different populations develop different specific combinations of OCA2 and related gene variants that produce different intensities of melanin, resulting in different shades of brown. But all of these variants produce the same fundamental result: a melanin-rich iris that absorbs most light and appears brown. Despite the evolution of blue, green, and hazel eye colors in various populations over the past 10 to 40,000 years, brown eyes remain by far the most common eye color in the world. Approximately 70 to 80% of the global population has brown eyes. In some regions, the percentage is even higher. In East Asia, brown and dark eyes occur in approximately 95 to 99% of the population. The genetic variants that produce lighter eyes in European populations are essentially absent from East Asian genomes, reflecting a distinct evolutionary path. This lightening of eye color occurred primarily in European and some Central Asian populations, and did not spread significantly into East Asia. In South Asia, brown eyes are similarly dominant, with lighter eye colors occurring at low frequencies, primarily in populations with significant West Eurasian genetic ancestry. This is seen in some communities in northwestern India, Pakistan, and Afghanistan, where the genetic mix creates a rare variety of eye shades. In sub-Saharan Africa, brown and dark eyes are essentially universal. This is the region where modern humans originated. Here, the ancestral brown eye configuration has been maintained without the selection pressures that drove depigmentation in Northern Europe. The genetic diversity within African brown eyes is, however, greater than anywhere else in the world, reflecting the long history of our species. African populations have had the most time to accumulate variation, making them the most genetically diverse human populations on Earth. In Latin America, and among indigenous American populations, brown eyes are overwhelmingly dominant, reflecting a rich and complex ancestry. This reflects both the East Asian ancestry of original Americans crossing Beringia and the West African and indigenous ancestry that defines these populations today. The only significant exception to brown eye dominance is in Europe, particularly Northern and Western Europe, where lighter eye colors are common. But even in Ireland, the country with the highest frequency of blue and green eyes, brown eyes still account for a meaningful minority. And in Southern Europe, brown eyes are clearly dominant even in populations that have significant amounts of the blue eye genetic variant. If blue, green, and hazel eyes evolved through natural selection, what evolutionary advantage did they provide in specific environments? And conversely, what is the evolutionary advantage of brown eyes that has kept them dominant across most of the world for 300,000 years? The answer is simpler than you might think. Brown eyes are advantageous because melanin is protective. The eumelanin that makes eyes brown is the same pigment that makes skin dark, providing several protective functions throughout human evolution. High melanin levels in the iris reduce the amount of light that reaches the photoreceptors at the back of the eye. In environments with high UV radiation, which includes most of Africa and the Middle East, this protection is genuinely important. People with lighter eyes in high UV environments have higher rates of UV-related eye damage than people with dark eyes. Melanin in the iris also improves visual acuity in bright light conditions. The high melanin iris absorbs stray light that would otherwise scatter. This scattering of light is why people with blue eyes are often more sensitive to bright light than those with brown eyes. In the environments where our species evolved for most of its existence, the high UV savannas and forests, brown eyes were the optimal configuration. The mutations that reduced melanin and produced lighter eyes were not advantageous in those intense equatorial environments. They only became advantageous when human populations moved to the low UV, low light environments of northern Europe. In these regions, reduced melanin helped with vitamin D synthesis and possibly with visual acuity in the long, dark winters. Thus, the dominance of brown eyes remains a testament to their protective legacy, the ancestral baseline of humanity. The global distribution of brown eyes is, in a very real sense, a map of human migration history. Where brown eyes are dominant, you are looking at populations that either never left Africa or left Africa and moved to environments that did not select strongly for depigmentation. The lightening of eyes, skin and hair in northern European populations happened relatively recently, within the past 10 to 40,000 years. A 2025 study analyzing ancient European individuals found that many Europeans maintained dark skin well into the Bronze Age and Iron Age. This was thousands of years after agriculture arrived and thousands of years after some populations had already developed blue eyes. The depigmentation of Europeans was a slow piecemeal process that happened over tens of thousands of years, driven by different selection pressures. The brown eyes of East Asians tell a different story. These populations moved through South Asia into East Asia over tens of thousands of years. The tropical and subtropical environments they moved through did not select strongly for depigmentation. Specific OCA2 variants that drive depigmentation in Europeans were not present in the founding populations that colonized East Asia. The result is that East Asian populations have remained predominantly dark-eyed to this day, despite being as far from the equator as many Europeans. This illustrates a fundamental principle. There is more than one way to adapt to similar environments. Both evolved lighter skin to allow vitamin D synthesis, but they did it through different genetic pathways. European skin lightening involves SLC24A5, while East Asian involves OCA2, and only the European pathway also lightened the eyes significantly. If you have brown eyes, what does that tell you about your ancestry? In one sense, it tells you something universal and ancient. You carry the ancestral human eye color. You are expressing a trait that every one of your ancestors, going back 300,000 years, also expressed. There is no single ancestor you share with other brown-eyed people. Brown eyes do not connect you to one specific ancestral event. They connect you to the entire history of humanity. The very dark brown eyes of West African populations reflect high melanin levels from long evolution in high UV environments. Somewhat lighter brown eyes of South Asian and Middle Eastern populations reflect slightly different OCA2 activity levels. The amber brown eyes in people of mixed ancestry reflect combinations of variants from different ancestral populations. If you have brown eyes in a predominantly light-eyed population, your eyes may carry an interesting ancestral story. Or they may simply reflect the fact that the brown eye configuration never entirely disappeared, it just became less common. 300,000 years. That is how long brown eyes have defined our species. Blue eyes are 6 to 10,000 years old, green eyes somewhat older, brown eyes are as old as us. They are the baseline, the original eye color that existed before any other, inherited from our primate ancestors. If you have brown eyes, you do not share them with one ancient ancestor, you share them with all of them. Every person who has ever lived was once your kind. Most of them looked back at the world with the same dark eyes. Subscribe to Hidden Origins for more stories. Drop a comment. Do you have brown eyes? Did you know they are the original color?